Hi everyone, it's Hans here, the founder of Cappuccino, and welcome back for Series 3 of Flat Whites and Insights, sponsored by SPA Advisory. We're here for some open, honest and vulnerable conversations held over a beautiful cup of coffee, and they're coming from my home, so I'll be providing the flat whites, and my guests, they'll be providing the insights. So grab a coffee for yourselves, take a moment, and I hope you enjoy this latest conversation. Thank you, take care, and enjoy. Hi. Thanks for coming on, joining me, Flat Whites and Insights, and looking forward to this, having a bit of a conversation. I know we've known each other on Instagram for a while. I say this with a lot of my guests. It's you're kind of an Instagram handle, and then we met by chance at Dorchester Festival, the latte art kind of throwdown competition. But for those who don't know who you are, you'd like to give a brief introduction.
Yeah, of course, I'm Jessie, obviously you know me now. I run Jessie's Coffee Truck, which is a converted like horse trailer, like where you've seen it. It's like a vintage like rice horse box, which my husband and I converted. I say my husband and I, it was definitely all my husband. I just made it look nice. But so we converted that ourselves, and then we did, before I did that, I basically had a cake business. So I made cakes from home, like birthday cakes, wedding cakes and all that sort of stuff. And I thought I really want to like go out there and like sell my cakes, but I wasn't really sure how, short of just selling them in other people's cafes and restaurants. I thought like, how can I do this? And then I kind of stumbled upon the world of mobile catering and all of that sort of fun stuff. And I was like, oh, this looks cool. And at that point, I wasn't really like super into coffee. Like, love a cafe, loved going to different cafes and places and trying different coffee. But I wouldn't say I was like a connoisseur of any sort. But I thought people are going to want hot drinks with their cakes. So I thought, right, I think this is a thing now. Like, we got it rolling, and it was all sort of like, I could have a horse trailer, and it was all very like mad idea at the time, and it was all very up in the air, and like, this is not going to happen. It's just something I'm thinking about doing. And then suddenly it was happening, and I was like, oh my God, like I didn't really even make that actual decision to say, right, let's do this. It was just sort of like, and my husband was like on board. He's a carpenter by trade, so he was very like, oh, this will be good, like a project we can do, and he had all these ideas about how we could fit the horse trailer out and stuff, which was exciting. So then I thought, well, I'm going to need a coffee machine, and my husband was like, oh, well, you could just do like filter coffee, or just get one of those like press button machine ones. And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, if I'm going to do this, then it's going to be done properly. And then I just started doing some research into coffee and sort of different coffee machines and stuff, and then that's when I met Emily. So then at the roastery, and then she helped me a lot, because obviously she did the same thing back in the day with her first horse trailer. And she was literally amazing for me. So that was it really, and then it kind of just spiraled from there. And now I'm here.
Now you're here.
No,
it's amazing. There's a few things like that. So when did it start? When did you start doing the truck and the coffee?
So we bought the truck, I think it must have been the first year of COVID, so 20...
Timed that well, all the events and all
great time. I think actually no, that might have been towards the end of that year, I think. Because everything was kind of calming down, and I think we then did go back into like another lockdown, but everything was still very quiet. So I think it was during those first 6 weeks where pretty much everybody, apart from initial workers, were off work, and me and my husband were obviously both at home not doing anything, and we kind of had the idea then, and that's when it kind of spiraled. And then when we came out of lockdown, then we started looking at buying a horse trailer and stuff like that.
I think there was a lot of that. People, it was quite nice. I don't want to get across, but in terms of having that bit of a reset, yes, there were challenges, like world changed, but I think there's a lot of people who I've spoken to or know that actually during that time either came out of it and changed job, or came out of it and had a new idea, and it gave you, I guess, a bit more time to actually,
for sure, and it was like that calm.
Reflect on life rather than the day to day. I mean, even just then we were saying, obviously it's half term, and I was saying, oh, nice time off, but kids and stuff, like day to day.
It's just busy.
It's difficult to get time to actually stop and think about it.
So absolutely. I think that first 6 weeks was like the only time that we've ever had off where we haven't been working and we've got nowhere
yeah.
to be and nothing to do, and it was just us and the kids. And like you said, for a lot of people it was a really horrific time and stuff, but for me personally in that time it was actually a really nice time, which forced us to slow down and to like sort of look at our life and reflect about things. And absolutely, so I think had it not been for COVID and for the lockdown, then I might not actually be doing what I'm doing now. Exactly,
Which is interesting sometimes. I know when we had that conversation, well, was it last week or so, I came up to Woodcote, which is where they're based. Just about avoided the rain showers, but we were having just a chat, and you mentioned about the butterfly effect and something about small decisions or small things that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you said, like with COVID, like
so
you might not
wouldn't
have
have
sat at
happened.
the truck or things happen. So that's cool. Someone else who we did mention is Emily. I feel like I've got to give a shout out to Emily. So Dark Horse Roastery and Horsebox Coffee as kind of part of that.
Yeah, like a joint business.
Again, someone who I've, since getting involved in like the coffee community, I found is just so welcoming and just, again, she's always busy. She's a busy person.
She's a busy
like
person,
you say, she's always coming from somewhere or going off to somewhere, but it's nice that she'll always make time, and
absolutely
sounds like she's been a big part of helping you.
She really has,
get into the world of coffee as well.
Absolutely, and that's why now, like I think I said to you the other day, like this is why now when I get people ask me about how to do things or how did I do this or how did I get started, I always make time to reply to people's messages and always making time to give people advice, like if I can. Obviously imposter syndrome plays a huge part in that, because I think like, why are people asking me? Like it wasn't even that long ago that I was asking people, you know, and I did reach out to loads of people when I was starting out, because I literally had no clue what I was doing. Like it was a complete, like from scratch, never done anything like this before. It was all sort of a bit crazy, and I felt a bit silly, like reaching out to people and saying, "Excuse me, can you help me please?" And like, not everybody replied, but the people that did obviously massively helped me. And it's so, like, there is so much kindness out there in the world of business. Like, okay, there's people that think everything's a competition, but I think Emily taught me that a lot, that it's not a competition. Like, even if someone else is doing the same thing as you 100 yards down the street, like, you can always benefit, you know, from helping each other out, and helping in business, I think, is just a massive thing. And I think Emily's definitely one of those people where she just wants to be a cheerleader for everybody. Like, she's definitely not a selfish person or somebody that's out there just to, you know, win everything. And she definitely helped me. I mean, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without her helping me and being kind to me and introducing me to all these different people in the community. And absolutely.
I guess in a perfect example of that as well, we wouldn't have met at that festival. So I was at Dorchester Festival recently. I somehow managed to find myself on a panel judging latte art. Thankfully, I didn't have to enter anything to prove that, but I think it's partly because Restore were the charity partner of the event, and they're who I've done a lot with, people who've listened to this and have followed kind of Cappuccino and my story will know about Restore. So it was nice to be there kind of representing them. And then obviously I'm in the world of coffee a little bit, so was able to judge, you know, just point a finger at a cup of coffee. I had Mark from the Independent Coffee Guide next to me. I think he was the brains on the panel. And then Adrian was just a good laugh as well, local artist. But I think that event probably summed up perfectly what you were saying about Emily and about the fact it's not a competition. No. I know you had put a post out on your socials about community over competition. I think that was the wording that you used, and that probably epitomises that. I mean, was that the first time you'd done anything like that? Yeah,
absolutely. That's the first time I'd ever like attended. I mean, I've done workshops with Emily before at the Roastery, where I've met a few other people of nice. Sort of somebody that was like just starting up a cafe in Oxford and all this sort of stuff. But that was literally like an hour that I was with them, and we were there to learn about coffee, not to chat with each other, you know. And then that was it then. But that was the first time I've ever actually done something like that. And I nearly didn't come because I was really like, I'm a bit scared and I don't really know. And I had like childcare issues, so I was like, it's okay. Like I just I could easily have just not come. And then I was like, no, do you know what? I am gonna go because you know it's fun. Like it definitely wasn't anything like serious or like everyone, we laughed so much, didn't we? Like we were all
really
just laughing our heads off, and
I think it was nice that a lot of the audience were people who weren't from the coffee space. If
Absolutely.
That makes sense. Like it wasn't. For sure. I mean, I've been to like London Coffee Festival and things, and you have the latte art there and or the coffee masters, and it's all very serious and, you know, weighing out coffee exactly to the gram and
you have
commentary
to be good.
and you have to be good. You have to be good. And then I think what was nice was the fact that I think Emily did a workshop beforehand that for people who had no experience really, and then so a few of them stayed behind and then had to go at some pours as well. So it was very welcoming. And I think the coffee industry, as much as I love it, and I found a very warm, welcoming community, I think there are corners of it which are probably a little bit, you know, exclusive. You get that in any industry, I think.
Yeah, of course.
You know, about you have to know this and have had this qualification and done this, but actually, especially when you think about what going for coffee is, it is about that community, and it's a way to reach out to people.
It is for sure.
From your truck, then since you started, sure, I think you were saying about there's some regulars there, and it's probably the connections you've made from that, and
absolutely, and also seeing my customers make connections together, like you know, like if you've got, I get so many people that sort of come on their own and they stay for a coffee, and then somebody else will come along, and then they'll get chatting, and that just makes me so happy. Like
that's like
when
the nicest
two people that don't know each other have just met in this random space because they decided to go there at the exact same time, and then all of a sudden they're talking about things, you know, or you know, people that have got businesses and they're like, oh, you don't suppose you know somebody that does this, and then the next thing you know, they're getting a business card out, and they're like, you know, it's just great, like to the community as well, especially living in a smaller village as well, like, and because we don't have a coffee shop, because I am the coffee shop in the village, I kind of feel like that it's really needed, like for people to have that sort of community hub.
Those spaces are good, especially like you say, if people are working from home, or
exactly,
living by themselves, or alone, like could be a bit lonely, and then that space. And I found that going way back now to when I kind of first got involved in coffee, that was what attracted me to coffee, probably more than the drink itself.
For
so
sure.
I was signed off work after my kind of burnout. Had about 6 months off work and living near Oxford, so we were in Didcot here still at the time, and it was a way to get out of the house. But also, you know, some baristas really took time to... I was there during the working day, and it was before lockdown, so, you know, there were quieter periods. And they'd seen that I was a regular, and I was like, I'd take my book in there, but started to show an interest, so there were shops, I can remember, where I was able to go behind and have a little go at pouring my own coffee, and they kind of explained what they were doing, and they didn't have to take the time to do that. But then that's why, I guess, this page and this platform grew through the coffee, because that was what gave me this kind of sense of belonging when I needed it.
Absolutely.
It's now obviously grown, and I've managed to work its way into football, which was always going to happen. Like, you ask anyone I know, they're like, I'll get football into anything. But yeah, like sponsoring local football clubs. Even just last night, actually, at Didcot Town, there's a local academy for young girls and boys, and they do education as well as the football.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Precision Academy is what they're called. And I was asked to come down and just present an award for like a special recognition for a community project. And
Oh,
a young guy, Jack, he's only 17, had arranged and coordinated this whole charity football match that went on at the football club, and managed to get people down, like Monty Panesar was down, Colin Hendry, for people who know, former Premier League, and a lot of YouTubers, TikTok people, which I don't know who they all are.
Yeah, from the modern day.
But he managed to do that all, and I think seeing football and being able to have young people have those conversations was amazing.
Absolutely.
And again, I felt very much, he wasn't there unfortunately to get the award, so I had to kind of speak on his behalf. And yeah, similar to what you said about that imposter, I was a bit like, well, you know, I'm
why me?
Why me? Like, why me? Like, what? People will be, oh, here he is, Hans has managed to get his way, he's speaking again. But I think it was nice that I was asked, and it shows, I think, that kind of, in the 5 years or so that I've been doing it, that kind of association with the conversation and awareness. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's funny, but again, it comes from that, you know, those one conversations or things you have, and you mentioned about sending those messages out. I think that's really cool, because a bit like with me, we've got the coffee with Jericho now, and I just asked a few roasters. At the time, I was like, well, are they just going to think, who's this guy? Just, you know, this guy's got an Instagram page and wants some coffee, but thankfully I'd been going for about a year and a bit, and it was really nice. They all came back and were like, oh yeah, we know who you are. Like, that's awesome.
So
and I got that, and even if I hadn't have got the coffee, that probably gave me that, oh, okay, what I'm doing is actually making a
isn't it? Absolutely,
difference.
that like recognition.
Yeah.
And I'm a massive believer in the saying, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah,
like
100%.
What have you got to lose? Like, just have that 5 seconds of bravery just to ask somebody something, and you never know what can happen. Worst case scenario is they say no, and then you say, okay, and
you're in the same position.
Exactly.
But also you don't have that in the back of your head, should I ask, should I not?
Exactly. And you know that even if they say no, you still tried, and you still asked, and you just move on to the next, you know, like, you have to ask for things in life, especially, and, you know, in business as well, like, you know, people who have huge global businesses, they didn't just get where they are for, you know, for doing nothing. Like, you know, they have certain you know, hoops you have to jump through and things you have
course,
to
that's
do
all
and
the bits
people
you
and
see,
networking.
you don't see,
and
it's all the bits
exactly
you don't
that,
see,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Like they didn't just wake up one night and own McDonald's or Starbucks, you know,
Yeah.
like it all requires a lot of work behind the scenes, you know, and that is one question I do get quite a lot actually from people asking me on the truck is like, oh, you know, like how's day-to-day running and like all that sort of stuff, and I just say to them like, it is a huge commitment. Like you seeing me standing in that truck, or anyone that owns, you know, mobile catering, coffee shop, whatever, sort of, you seeing us standing there front of house and actually making you a coffee is like literally one tiny little section
I do
of
think
our
that
day.
people in hospitality,
Yeah,
I've had people on
that's
before
it.
and they say, sometimes people see it as quite picturesque or quite like, oh, I'd love to retire and, you know, just do a little bit, owning a coffee shop and things.
Just a coffee shop.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And there's so much that goes into it.
And I thought that as well before I started doing it. I thought it'd be great. I'll just rock up every day in my little horse trailer. Didn't
like,
think
oh,
about
looks
how I was going to get it
relaxing,
there, how I was going to power it, how I was going to stock it, how, you know, driving around to
and
pick
also
up all
even
stock.
then like the finance of it.
Exactly,
like,
the finance, the paperwork, you know, all the sort of health regulations and stuff that go with it and everything, and the paperwork, and it's all...
It's a lot,
It is a lot, and everything has to work together to make that final product of me.
And like you say,
standing
people just
there.
see there and it looks all...
It looks all cute with
perfect
your latte art and your
yeah.
cakes in the cabinet, but actually it does. And I think especially in the events world as well, like it is a lot easier when I'm in my permanent pitch during the week at Church Farm, because it stays where it is and everything, and I just bring stuff to and from each day. But for events and stuff, that I think that's the really hard part of it as well, is, and then getting it back to my regular spot on a Monday morning, ready to then be hello on a Monday morning and ready to serve people. So I think that's the hard part of it really, is the sort of logistics of getting it to places so I can do events and stuff like that.
No, there's a lot for that experience, and like you say, it's or the podcast I was listening to recently, you know, someone said on it, I think it's people are jealous of what you've got, not the work you had to do to get what you've got.
How you got there, absolutely.
Not what you've got there, because people see, and it's anything that probably could sum up social media perfectly of all the comparisons, or even like, you know, sometimes I think myself, people think, oh, he's got his coffee, he's you know, he's doing his podcast, but then they don't see like there's a lot of no's as well. I ask people to come on. Sometimes people don't want to come on, or even just, you know, working full time, doing this alongside it. I try to be honest with the space, and it's you know, we'll say if I'm not having a great day, we'll say if I'm not, because I think, you know, that's the whole point of it, is reminders for myself. But even or working in the football world, I find it funny sometimes when people are like, oh, you know, young players, oh, they're so lucky to have this, and I'm like, some of them, they leave home at like, some of them move out of home at like 7, 8, 9, 10, and they're training across the world, and you have to sacrifice a lot. You hear the young players, they don't get, you know, that childhood of growing out with their mates, and
like normality.
People like see them playing on a Saturday, they don't see the training and everything that goes into it, and I think it's the same with everything really.
For sure, it's all behind the scenes, isn't it?
That's
and we were saying the other day, weren't we, about like Instagram is literally just a snapshot of all the good stuff. Like you say, you try to include when you're not feeling that great, and when, you know, but I think in reality people don't want to see that, like, and as great as it is, and I try to do that as well, like when I'm like, you know, like I said about doing events at a weekend and then having to show up on a Monday, like I say to people like, I'm out of stock of this, like it's just reality, like I haven't got any cakes today or whatever, you know, and people don't want to hear it, which is the sad thing, because I think people do turn to Instagram for that, you know, that happy snapshot of people's lives, and which is fine if you're looking for a little pick-me-up, but I think in the long term, you're then starting comparing yourself to, why is that person always so happy, or why does their business always look like it's doing well or making money, or you know, the same sort of thing, or why are they higher in the league than I am, or do you know what I mean? Like and it applies to every single business, and not even just business, just life in general, you know,
life. And I think,
why are they married and they've got kids and I haven't, and you know, all that sort of stuff, and in the end it actually ends up being quite detrimental to mental health, and I think that's what we're seeing as well now, like a huge trend in the world of,
I think as much as I love social media and I wouldn't have this platform without it is very true. And even myself, sometimes I've been trying to reduce my, like, I'll go on to post something when I want to put it out, but then try and just limit to going on when I have a reason to go on, rather than just
doing it because
you know, doing it because, and that kind of doom scrolling and stuff. And I think it's a really good point that you made about people maybe don't want to see it because, you know, it's, and sometimes I find, you put something up, that's when the views are down because people just scroll past it, because sometimes they're going on there to escape from from everything. So, you know, you put a TikTok of dancing to this, that and the other, and people want to just watch meaningless videos, but don't want to actually, you know, be like, okay, why am I watching this? Or
exactly. It's not reality.
why am I feeling that?
Yeah.
And that's where maybe this podcast is good, because then it's people are coming to us, maybe you can have a bit more of those conversations.
Absolutely.
And then people are maybe looking for something a bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, sometimes we'll post if it's just, you know, oh, there's a nice coffee, or, you know, oh, I'm at a football game and this.
Yeah.
And it's nice to still have that. And I think for myself as well, sometimes I maybe try and, because of the whole platform, oh, it's about self-care and mental health page, sometimes maybe I'm trying to find like, oh, do I need to be posting about the serious stuff more? But you know, I'll just post what I feel like posting.
This is it, and I think at the end of the day, it's authentic, isn't it? And it's genuine.
I think very much with that page, because I didn't. There was never a plan of I want to do this, I want to do that. It's all happened organically.
Yeah.
Whatever happens from now will be organic.
Yeah.
And if it starts to feel like work, I can stop it.
Exactly.
I mean, sometimes it does feel like work, I've got to be honest, but it's worth it for the potential impact or the energy it gives me.
This is it, isn't it?
But
and you're attracting the right people.
Say when you have all that work that goes on behind the scenes, but when you see two people come and connect at your coffee shop, or meet your regulars and see the difference,
it makes it all worth it.
It makes it all worth it. You've got to feel like what you're doing is making a difference.
Absolutely,
in some way.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's where I struggle really with like the social media side of things, with like the blurred lines between. Obviously, it is a business at the end of the day. Like, obviously, my beliefs and everything are still in line with my business.
Yeah.
But, you know, nobody starts a business not to make money. Like, that's, you know, business is to make money. Excuse me. Everyone has to make money in a business, otherwise business doesn't work. That's how, you know, that they go round. And sort of, obviously, unless you're a charity or a non-profit business or whatever.
No, but even so, there's still, you know, we're a non-profit business at work, but still you've got to be able to fund sufficiently the work that you want to do. So there's always that.
Exactly.
It's always a factor. Like, it's a very idealistic, kind of unrealistic as well thing to think, oh, they're doing it all for the goodness. Yes, it's for the goodness, but at the end of the day, it's got to be able
to be sustainable.
To make a living.
Yeah, exactly that, exactly. And I think that's where I get a bit like confused of how much of my own life to share through my business pages and stuff as well. And like, because I know people like to see who owns a business and like the face of the business, if you like. You know, I think there's a lot of trends going around over the last couple of years of like, oh, this is the face behind the business and all that. And I do like to share that sort of stuff, but then there's obviously, you've got to draw a line of how much you share, because at the end of the day, I am trying to promote my business and I'm trying to sell my business and myself. So it kind of, it's hard, and I'm just a one-man band to try and be like, oh, this is me and this is my business, but also I need to be professional. So it needs to be like a thing. But I think people do relate. When I share things about myself, I get more interaction than I do when I just share a picture of a cake or a picture of a coffee, you know, or a picture of my truck. Or people were really interested in like the journey that I've been on to get to where I am.
I think
like,
people love stories.
The building of my truck, people always love it when I post pictures of when it was just a raggy old horse trailer and stuff like that. So I really try a lot to like just be authentic and just tell my story exactly how it is. And it's not shiny and polished and all edited and nice. It's just, it is as it is. And I think people do relate to that, you know, and if you've got the right people following you, you know, like, and the people supporting you, like, I would rather have 5 people liking my business who all genuinely believe in what I do, rather than hundreds of thousands of people who are just,
I think that's the thing
as
well.
Don't
what's
care.
What's the meaning behind that? And you say about some of those posts maybe get more engagement, but does that relate to more customers? Does that relate to,
exactly.
And that's where sometimes the metrics on socials don't always necessarily like make sense. I mean, you can look at, and again, any Man United fans listening, like, you got most followers or whatever, but then you look at the league table and you finish 8th. And so
and I think that again relates to like the looking all shiny and polished. Exactly.
It's easy to look all shiny and polished, and again, there will be businesses that even we follow or people we follow that it looks like they're doing amazing. As soon as they come away from that platform, they're panicking that they're struggling to get through and to pay the bills, and you know, but that, as you say, that's not going to get customers.
No, exactly.
Because you don't want them to be desperate. Please buy my cakes.
Exactly. You don't want. There's a very
I need to pay my bills, buy my cakes. Like, you know, that's not gonna get customers.
No,
and
exactly.
Because it's about that welcoming thing. But no,
for sure.
But cool. But this series of Flat Whites and Insights is sponsored by SPA Advisory. They specialise in corporate, employment and personal taxation, with over 8 years experience between the Big Four and industry, and they can support both businesses and individuals with their tax affairs. you've just got to visit spaadvisory.co.uk to find out more, and that link will be in the information for this podcast. I know Stuart really well. He's a close friend and he's very, very good at what he does, so I can only recommend the service. Thanks. Now let's get back to Flat Whites and Insights. The question I kind of wanted to ask as well about, I guess we said a bit about what you do, a bit more about like who you are and that.
Yeah.
So I know you said about you've been in cakes for quite a while.
Yeah.
Now, But in terms of since starting the horse box, and it was obviously something that at first you thought was just like a silly little idea, as you're saying. How have you found your own confidence or belief in yourself, and has that translated outside of the work as well? Because I know all you were saying about you just ask questions, or I found when we met like at the thing you straight away you seem quite confident in yourself.
I think I would describe myself as like an introverted extrovert. I think I like thrive off of like being in social settings, but also my battery like runs out very quickly, and then I think, right, that's it, I need to go home now. Like I need to be on my own. I feel like that about business as well. Like I'm very good at like customer service, and I love talking to people and chatting and stuff, but I get drained of that very quickly, and then I need to sort of recoup and go back, and then I'm like, okay, I'm ready now to go back out again. So it's hard to find that sort of balance as well when you're always front of house and not sort of talking to people all day long. But I definitely think that my confidence in myself has grown since I started my own business, for sure. Like at the beginning, obviously I was asking people a lot of questions and sort of getting, and even now, like, oh my God, I haven't like made it now. Like I'm not like the top of my game.
But then does anyone?
Exactly. I don't think that ever really comes a moment where you think, do you know what, that's it now. I've made it. I don't want to learn anymore. I don't want to, you know.
As soon as you have that, that's probably when it's time to stop or move on. Because I think if you're not learning and you're not growing and you're not, what's the ambition? What would be the motivation?
Exactly. This is it.
We spoke about. This did the half marathon, was it? I remember we spoke. We were saying that, and then you said almost you were able to get out, do your training runs, and then as trying to go running once you completed it.
Yes.
And I've spoken to other friends that similar. It's so difficult because you don't have that goal or that motivation, and I think feeling like you've made it, or I've completed. Coffee and cakes. Like, what would be the motivation to keep going?
Exactly. I think you always need to like level up, otherwise, like you said, you've got no motivation. Absolutely. So I think now I'm like at that stage where I'm like, right, how can I expand my business, or how can I make what I've got better already? And I'm always just thinking of new ideas as well, which is really nice as well. I feel like I really have like a fire in me for it now, whereas at the beginning it was sort of like, I love baking and I love making cakes for people, and how can I get that out there? And then obviously this idea just kind of snowballed. But now when I think about my business and when I think about just business in general, like I really do have this fire inside me now to like, like progress my business and grow it and all that sort of stuff. It's just which direction I go in. It's hard, it's always sort of, but it's all a learning curve. Like I've learned so much since I started doing it, and I definitely think I've become, like, I wouldn't say more confident as a person, but like more confident in what I know. If that like my personality, I don't think has changed, but I feel like now I have sort of like roots in this sort of area now, and I feel like I can give advice to other people, and I feel like I can talk to customers confidently about what I do, whereas at the beginning it was very much just like fake it till you make it sort of thing, where I was like just winging it. Absolutely. And even now, like there's times where I get offered a job, or I get people asking me to do something, and I think like, oh my God, can I do that? Like, and like that's where my imposter syndrome comes in, and I think, you know what, just do it. Like, just do it, and if it doesn't work out, then you've learnt from it, and if it does work out, then great, like you've smashed it and you've done it, but I do find it really hard to like pat myself on the back and be like, well done. Even I have so many friends and family, and like my partner as well, like he's so supportive, and they all say to me like, you're literally incredible, I don't know how you do it, like but in my head I just feel like that's the thing, that's just what you say to somebody who owns their own business or who does something great. You just say like, oh, well done, you're really great, but actually in my head I find absolutely, I know they all do, but in my head I'm just like, I know what you mean, that's not me.
It's difficult, and particularly probably as well with the, as you say, all the day-to-day, and it's fast-paced, and like you said about that time during the lockdown was maybe the one time you had 6 weeks to really stop and think, and I mean, I've tried to do it more, just to actually look back at what I've done, and rather than always looking forwards.
This is it.
And think, the me of, I remember when I started this page, when would it have been? 2018, 2019, and I remember sat in a restaurant with like my mum and my sister, and I said, oh, maybe I'll get 100 followers because people in Oxford like cafes, and it was just going to be reviewing cafes. And now, like, 2,500, it's got the podcast sponsoring clubs, and like, you know, the me of them would have looked at that and gone, absolutely no way. And almost probably wouldn't have wanted it because I would have been scared of it, especially because I was trying to get back into the world after having my breakdown and like kind of wanting to just find something to keep me a bit occupied and find a purpose. So that would have put me, if I'd have known that was what it was going to be 5 years ago, I wouldn't have done it.
No, exactly.
So that's why I'm so glad that did, and as you say, you grow as you're doing it. Or even being asked to present that award yesterday, exactly the same feeling where you said, where people were saying to me, and I'm like, but why do people don't want to hear from me? Like, what? It wasn't me who did it. And there were probably some of them in there who did think like that. But that doesn't matter because I've been asked and I was able to just talk about it. And it's almost that, you know, he's only 17, that Jack, and like when I think, wow, like when I was that age, I didn't know anything about these conversations, and what a good he's got a very like young, like mature head on young shoulders, and like was able to do it. But he kind of, it only happened because I kind of had helped partner restore the charity with the football club, and that's all next. So it's all like feeds into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not always easy, as you say, to give yourself a pat on the back and be like, you know, proud of what you're doing. But then obviously, like, when you see it all like in the truck and all branded up, and like you think, you know the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. There are times where I just sort of like catch a glimpse of something, or I like someone says something and it just sort of sticks in my head, and I think, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
be proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I'm glad I did not do it all on my own. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do it without, like, obviously all my customers and my partner and my friends and my family, and like, you know, I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it, like, without.
And that's maybe why sometimes it's difficult to take those compliments.
This is it, isn't it? Because I feel like it's not just me.
The same people that probably helped you.
Yeah,
and then
the ones
saying,
saying,
you're
well
amazing,
done.
and you're like, yeah, but it was
exactly
it
that.
was,
Yeah,
it was,
exactly. Like, I remember when I first opened the truck in Woodcote, in the village where I live, and it was literally just like my friends and people I knew were coming to the truck, and I would just feel so silly. Like, well, obviously these people are going to come because they're supporting me, because they're my friends, and obviously I was so grateful. But I was always like, oh, I want people that don't know me to come, because that would like validate the fact that it's real. And but then without all my friends coming in the first place, other people would never have come.
People
so
are driving
actually,
past, walking past, you see a queue, you see customers.
Exactly. And even now to this day, like over a year later, those same friends and people I know still come to the truck, and they've now become regular customers as well.
Like you say, they're supporting you as a person.
Absolutely.
The business is the thing, but they're supporting you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's nice about, you know, when people start small businesses, or like with this bit, I've had, you know, if I like share something, people who like share your post and say as a small business owner, it's like, what can you do to help a small business? You know, give them a review or shout about them.
You don't have to buy something.
You don't have to buy something, just give them that kind of like space and credit. And I think that's what's nice when, or when I've got like, you know, the coffee, and people are like, oh yeah, I'll buy the coffee, and this, that, and the other, and it's nice because
this is it, isn't it?
People are kind of supporting you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, as you say, you've got those regulars, and it's
yeah, for sure. It is good fun. I do really enjoy doing it. Yeah, I can't imagine a world where I don't do what I do now. Like, and I'm really like I said, I have a few people that have messaged me and asked me about, you know, they want to do the same thing, and how can I help them? And it just makes me really nostalgic, like thinking back to when I was that person. Like asking people. So I always try and make sure I reply to them and give them any advice that I can, because I just think advice from somebody who's already at that point is so invaluable. Like, you just can't learn it any other way. There's no like Googling or YouTube video you could watch that could actually give you the same advice as somebody who's physically in it in the moment, you know. And like I said, like, oh my God, I haven't like made it, but you're always learning, and you're always trying to, you know, find new ways to do things and find the best ways to do things. And, you know, there's always hacks and little, you know, bits of advice. And
like you say, like, haven't made it, but are further along the journey than someone who's starting there, and someone is
absolutely,
and is able to show someone that you can do it, and like they won't have to do it exactly the same way as you, but use what's your unique talent or thing. So for yours was obviously like the cakes. So like, I guess you went into it knowing however the coffee works out, the cakes are good. Absolutely. I know the cakes are good. So you've got that solid foundation. And that was
exactly it. Like, I have no doubt that my coffee was dire at the beginning. Like when I first started. Oh my goodness.
We're going to talk about the latte art from the thing. No.
That was
latte art
awful.
competition.
Well, you saw firsthand that my latte art is actually quite nice when you came to the truck. I mean,
yeah,
but,
we'll get to truck. Yeah,
day to day when I'm just pouring it, you know,
Yeah.
just for a customer, not on the spot and not on my own machine as well with my own jugs and
it's
everything.
fine.
It's
Yeah,
all-
I'm the same. Yeah, when you use a different machine,
yeah,
it's difficult.
this is
it's
it,
difficult.
isn't it? And when you're under pressure as well, the fact
Under
that it was
pressure.
like first cup
And
on
also,
the table.
yeah,
was-
everyone watching.
yeah.
And if you've not done that before, it's
Never,
like,
ever. Like, I mean, and even, you know, it's not like when I'm in the horse truck, it's kind of all enclosed as well. So even when I have got a huge queue of customers, when I'm at events
No
and
one's
stuff,
really watching what you're
nobody's
doing.
watching me.
Yeah.
And also when you're at events, the lid just goes straight on and you just
Yeah,
give
yeah.
the coffee to them and they just go.
Yeah,
And that's
the
all they
lid
want.
the
is
lid's
yeah,
the saviour at takeaway.
exactly. Yeah, I'm like, oh, that was rubbish, put the lid on. So, yeah, I think it's different to like a cafe environment where
Yeah.
it's very open and your customer's going to go and sit down with their coffee and their mug and everything.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
some
sort of-
people particularly would go for. I mean, I'm one like. I'm always interested in what art I get, and people from the coffee space,
Yeah,
like, and it's
absolutely.
become more of a thing. But no, it was good. It was good. It was good fun.
It was. It really
and,
was. I'm glad I went now because if I hadn't have gone, then I hadn't have met you, and then I wouldn't
Yeah.
be here right now. So I think it's just those things of saying yes, isn't it? Just
Exactly.
say yes
That's
to
the thing.
things.
Say
yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
And if you don't ask, like, same with me.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you know, do you want to come on the podcast? And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm always people from certainly the local area, whether that's in football, coffee, and support. Like you say, supporting. I don't know. Someone might see this and. Next time they're in Woodcote, go to
Yeah,
Jessie's coffee
exactly.
shop. Yeah,
That's the plan.
say hands for a 20%.
Yeah.
ask for a ghost latte art.
Yeah. My specialty, ghost.
But no, it was cool. And yeah, question I ask everyone. I think I'll ask yourself as well.
Yeah.
What does happiness mean to you? We might have covered a few things in this, but yeah.
It's a hard
To finish
one,
with a
isn't
deep
it?
question.
Yeah,
there you
it
go.
is deep actually. I've never really thought about it. It's I think having like a good life balance, I think is what makes me happy. Like obviously I've got 2 kids, so you know that my whole life revolves around them, like everything that we do. So
Yeah.
them being happy and me being happy and my partner being happy, I think just all of us being in a good space, I think is really important to me, and being able to help each other out when one of us isn't in a good space as well, because obviously life isn't always plain sailing, like we know that, and it's family dynamics are always different. And yeah, I just think it's to get that balance as well of like feeling like you're spending enough time with your children but also focusing on your business and also focusing on your partner. And like I really strive to get that work-life balance in a good place, like 90% of the time. Obviously I know it's not always going to happen like that, and it's always going to be one over the other, but yeah, I just think having a good work-life family happiness balance is where my happiness is at. As long as everybody else is happy and I feel happy in myself, and then I think that's where it's at. Good work-life balance.
Nice. Love that. No, it's so important.
It's not a great answer,
It's
but
no. I think it is though, because especially hearing that from someone who is a business owner, and someone who, you know, it could be easy for the business to take over your life.
absolutely.
And I think
there's been times where it has.
and there will be times when it has, and I've had times even with my work that you know I get so into. I've got quite an addictive personality, but also in terms of, so if I'm enjoying something, I just find I will throw myself into it.
Yeah.
But also kind of perfectionist, and it comes back from growing up and wanting to always achieve and get that validation. It wasn't necessarily there growing up, but I do struggle sometimes and I lose myself. But it's actually at what is the cost? Because you know, anything you do, there's always a cost.
Absolutely.
And it's like the more time you spend with your business, the less time you spend with your family. Like
Exactly.
obviously it's not as
And
simple as
vice
that, but you
versa.
can break it down as or the more time you spend with family, less on the business. So yes, you might not become absolutely top of the coffee game, but you'd probably rather have the time with the family. And I think that's important for anyone
if
to
it
hit.
comes
Yeah,
down to
if
it,
comes
then
down to it,
obviously my family, you know, takes priority. But I think
Yeah.
if you can get that balance and
Yeah,
make
exactly.
it work for the majority of the time,
Yeah.
then I think that's the most important thing. Is just having that balance where everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Which it just sounds so
Happiness is
unrealistic,
everyone
but I
happy.
feel like at least like 80% of the time are. That balance
dropped.
is
It was
great.
90%. It was 90% 5 minutes ago.
No, 90% is what I strive for.
Oh, right,
80% is the realistic balance.
By the end, you'll be like, well, 5% of the time. I'm like,
5% will do. We'll take anything. No, I think it is hard, like in anything, no matter what, even if you don't have kids or you don't have a partner or whatever, just that work balance of work, life, you know, like, you know, everything really, like chores and, you know, seeing friends and family, a social life, like everything, it all just sort of mixes in. And I think that's why it's so easy to be overwhelmed and to, have a breakdown or whatever, be overworked. And I think you kind of get that, those triggers, don't you? Like, obviously you've been through it, like, when that burnout is near and you need to take some time. Like you say, self-care is not selfish, and like that's another thing I definitely believe in as well. Like, you have to take time for yourself, because if you're not working, then nothing works.
Exactly. And particularly, you've got the perfect example of your business. It's like, I could say yes to all these events, but like,
at what
you
cost?
Don't want to, at what cost?
Exactly.
You don't want to, but not because the business, as much as I say, like, it's a business, and it sounds like you've got someone who's like helping you with the truck and some of the times. But at the end of the day, if you're not firing on all cylinders, the business won't be firing.
Exactly that. Yeah. Exactly.
And so it's amazing.
You've got to look after yourself, guys.
Yeah. There you go.
It's my motto.
That's your motto. Look after yourself. No, it's true. Look after yourself and enjoy some coffee from.
Absolutely.
Get yourself to Woodcote.
Yeah. And get some great latte art.
There we go. But no, thanks, Jessie.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been great. Thank you.
No worries at all.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, and I really hope you gained something from that conversation, because I know I certainly did. It would mean a lot if you can like or subscribe on whatever platform you may be watching or listening on, and please do share this podcast with any friends or family or anyone you know that you think might benefit from having a listen. Also, if you can head over to Instagram and give Cappuccino a follow, that's where you'll find the latest updates as we look to raise awareness of mental health through my passions for football and coffee. And I'm always open to people getting in touch if you want to have a conversation, collaborate, or even come on the podcast yourself. The support means a lot, and I'm very grateful. Thanks so much again, and I hope to see you soon.